pick. Did not make it to the end of last night's game. Nope, he was replaced by backup Chris Streveler. As you can see, Wilson getting benched after 7 drives, just 3 points and 44 yards. Streveler coming on in mop-up duty, but really he didn't do much either there for New York. Here is Jets head coach Robert Saleh, day after that 19-3 loss to the Jags.
By the time it became a passing situation, I think we were at, he had, make sure I get this right for you. Streveler goes in, and we have that long 8-minute drive. We have a chance to cut it to a 1-score game. The drive doesn't finish. By the time we got the ball back, I believe there was less than 6 minutes left. And by then it was, you know what, it wouldn't be fair to just put Joe out there. Streveler was playing well. He was getting first downs. He was moving the ball with his feet, and he was moving the ball in the 2-minute drive too. On that next series, we were unlucky. We fumbled the ball when he was moving it. So I thought Strev did a good job. You could always play the hindsight 2020 game and all that, but at the point in the game with where we were, we just kept rolling with Strev.
Robert, if Mike's not cleared, are you prepared to go to Zach in Seattle?
Again, we got time, Al. I don't have those answers for you yet.
Robert, not to be overly dramatic or anything, but Zach, just watching Zach and talking to him after the game, he seems like a quarterback that's completely lost his confidence. How can you trust him to go out there again this season, which is kind of where he's at? It seems like he just needs a kind of a mental break from all this.
That's a good question. Again, we got time, but confidence is a big deal. It's confidence for coaching, confidence for players, confidence in your own individual self. But I do know that he works his tail off, and I'm with you. It's a tough thing to try to overcome, but it doesn't take much to flip confidence. He just needs to get on a little run. Just a couple of things happened, go his way, and felt like that was happening in the first half of the Detroit game, where he had a really nice first half. There was a lot of confidence. Finished the half strong in a 2-minute drive with a goal ball on a back shoulder on a scout on the 2-man. But we've got to help him. We're not going to quit on him. We've got to do our best, and that's for every player in our locker room. We as long as they're wearing a Jets logo, we're going to pour our hearts and souls into them and do everything we can to help them.
Robert, you'd said last night that, this is, I think somebody asked you about the playoffs, and you said this is not about the playoffs. And essentially this season was very much going to be about, who Zach was, what kind of progress he made and whatnot. What is the benefit? I'm assuming there are benefits for him to play these next 2 games, just so you can try to find out more about him and try to help him. Can you speak to that a little bit as you formulate, start to formulate decisions on who to go with?
Again, I'm like I said, I'm not prepared to. I'm trying to utilize time, but you can make a case for everybody on the entire roster on giving them opportunities. But there's still a lot to look forward to with the season. Thinking playoffs is far fetched, but at the same time, it's we've done a lot of really, really cool things this year, and the most important thing right now is finishing strong, which starts with Seattle. But you can make a valid argument for everybody, Mark.
I wasn't really trying to pin you on a decision at all. I just was kind of saying, can there be a benefit for both Zach and you, and everybody, Joe, all the way down the line, to play Zach in these last 2 games as you continue to evaluate?
No, for sure. That's what I'm getting at. Like you can make an argument for everybody on the roster to continue giving them opportunities and all that, is what I'm getting at. Like but there's also cons to it. Like you got to think about the player and where he's at and whether or not you're doing more damage or you're helping them. And then of course there's other players on the football team, the people that he's surrounded with and their play, because everybody's play affects one another. If a linebacker's off by a hair, it's gonna if CJ's off a little bit, it's gonna affect Quan and Quincy. If the safeties are off, it's gonna affect the corner. So like you just want to make sure that you're making the best decisions for the team, and not just say, hey, let's just get this guy reps just to get this guy reps. if that makes sense.
Robert, over I think the last 6 games, you guys are averaging 14 points a game, and so that obviously includes games that Zach wasn't starting. So I guess how would you assess how Mike has been doing as your play caller, your offensive coordinator? Because obviously it falls on him as the guy calling the plays if you aren't scoring and finishing those drives and whatnot.
For sure, it always starts with us as coaches. Always, you've got to be honest and truthful from a film study standpoint, and in terms of giving our players the best chance to be successful. Are there things that I'm sure, like all coaches, there's a lot of things that he wishes he could have back. There's a lot of things that he wishes he could have done differently. He talks about the goal-to-goal situation on the one in Minnesota, wishes he would have called the play that he ended up calling against Detroit to CJ Uznama for the touchdown, So it's like, of course, you're always going to look inward and try to figure out, am I doing everything I can to help my player be the best he can possibly be? And if you can look in the mirror and say, I've done everything, then you can at least go to sleep at night. But yeah, the coaches are working their tails off, the players are working their tails off, and we're in a little mini slump. But I'm not sure if I answered your question there, Z, but they're working at it.
Robert, I'm going to steal Kaz's line on not trying to be overly dramatic here, but I think it's a fair question, because I'm wondering how disconcerting is it for you? You're basically 2 years into your coaching tenure here, and the quarterback position seems to be just as big a question mark as it was when you first got here. So how disconcerting is that?
It is, because the quarterback is the head of the snake, and you want the head of the snake to be stable, and we just haven't been able to. I'm responsible for for it also. It starts with me, and there's things that we could be better for Zach. There's things that we can do better for Joe Flacco. There's things we could have done better for Mike White. There's things we could have done better as a collective whole. Our run game has been putrid the last couple of weeks. Part of that is us as coaches, whether or not we want to commit to it and make it part of the staple and part of our identity. Part of it is just not getting the job done from an execution standpoint. Part of it's schematic on our part and play design. It's an all-encompassing thing. It's not any one person to look at and try to blame people. It's look at the collective whole and find out what the answers are and do our best to address them.
All right, that was Jets head coach Robert Saleh addressing the media following their 19-3 loss yesterday to the Jags on Thursday Night Football. We're taking a look at the AFC playoff picture here. The Jets on the outside looking in. After 4 straight losses, Saleh called the playoffs, quote, far-fetched at the moment. However, he said they're not giving up on Zach Wilson, but would not give an answer on whether Zach would play if Mike White was cleared to play next week against the Seahawks. The Jets, once again, playoff hopes fading fast. Their next 2 games on the road, tough opponents, Week 17 against Seattle, then Week 18 within the division against the Miami Dolphins.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.